Hi, it's Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, and I'm back with my plans and pans. Well, this last week, the House of Representatives took a very serious step. Congressman George Santos was expelled from the House of Representatives. Now, there have been, over the last couple years, a lot of jokes about George Santos and the ways that he made up stories, gave himself different names, etc. But removing someone from the House of Representatives has only happened 5 times in the past. This makes 6, a vote to take him out altogether. So I think this was, in fact, a pretty solemn moment to make that decision, and I voted for it, as did a pretty big majority of the House of Representatives. Some of the Republicans, including the new Speaker, voted to keep him. Again, it was a bipartisan vote. And among the things that George Santos had done, and there were many things for which he was actually indicted, though not yet convicted, I expect that he will be, are things like credit card fraud and identity theft. So ordinary people were taken for their money, and in fact, money that was given to him for a contribution to his campaign, he just took that money and spent it on things that he wanted to spend it on, personal items. So George Santos, I saw him walk out the door, and that is a pretty historic thing happening. The first time in over 20 years that this has happened. That leaves the Republicans with only a 4-seat majority, which is not a lot of votes in order to pass an agenda. So there was increasing pressure, mainly by the Republicans, to create a fiscal commission, saying we need a special commission in order to make sure that we reduce the deficit in the United States. Well, I actually have experience with that. In 2010, I was on the Simpson-Bowles Commission, and what I saw then, and what I'm sure if we were to do this I will see again, is that the way that the majority, although it was not a winning majority, on the Simpson-Bowles Commission was to take money from Social Security. Social Security, of all things, to decide that the way we're going to balance the budget is to take money from Social Security. At the time, in 2010, when I was on that commission, I not only voted against the proposal, I offered one of my own and said, we can balance a budget without harming Social Security. How? We can ask the wealthiest Americans to pay more. Well, neither of the proposals got enough votes, and I was happy to see it go down the drain, quite frankly. As long as they weren't going to pass mine, I certainly didn't want theirs that would really hurt Social Security. Social Security is such a modest income right now, amounting to about $17,000 a year. Less by about $2,000 for women in this country. Now, you can't really live on that. You certainly can't live high off the hog by that kind of income. People are struggling with Social Security as it is. So my view is, if we're going to reduce the deficit, decide about fiscal priorities, we already have what we need. It's called a Congress. People who are elected and vote should make the decisions about how funding is allocated, what is funded, and what is not funded. One of the great proponents of this idea is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who would like to see a fiscal commission. And I want to tell you, I think part of the idea is that members of Congress don't want to be held guilty for cutting things like Social Security or Medicare or many of the things that really help people. They want to put it off onto a commission It just seems some distance from them and they don't have to take responsibility. This is a bad idea. And so I am certainly going to be against creating what I think is really an artificial mechanism for cutting things that are important for everyday Americans. Last week, Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook, filed a lawsuit declaring that the Federal Trade Commission is against the Constitution, I guess, and should be destroyed. Now, you understand, the Federal Trade Commission has been around for 100 years, and it is one of the most important tools that Americans, consumers and businesses, etc., have to protect our rights and to avoid the overstepping of large corporations who might want to undermine that. Right now, the Federal Trade Commission is holding Meta accountable for unfair and deceptive trade practices, one of which is they want to be able to use information about children for their own profit. Profit over people, profit over children. So I am very much in support of a robust Federal Trade Commission and a big supporter of Lina Khan, who is the chair of that commission. And she is rightfully saying no to Meta. And you know, big tech in general has been trying to write the rules, and I'm sorry, that has not really worked for consumers, and it certainly doesn't work if they're taking information about our children. Last week, I was part of a forum hosted by the Center for Law and Social Policy, whose focus right now is on a guaranteed income. I mentioned this important issue to you last week and told you that I am the co-sponsor of a bill with Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman. This is a program that has been tried and true. Perhaps the best example of a guaranteed income has been already in the United States during the pandemic when we had the child tax credit. And the child tax credit meant that families that qualified for the program would get $300, sometimes $350 a month to take care of their children, depending on their age, every single month. And the consequence of that is that during that year, the child poverty level in the United States of America diminished by nearly half. By nearly half. What a bargain. And so the idea of a guaranteed income, I think, is something whose time has come. We have the largest gap in income inequality in the United States of America than any other industrialized country. The rich have been pretty much getting richer. The poor have been getting poorer, and more people have been falling out of the middle class. So why not say we're going to give this a try? And we are also seeing it being given a try in places like Cook County, Illinois, in the city of Chicago, and in Evanston, Illinois. So my view is this. It costs a lot of money for people to be out on the street, homeless. Costs a lot of money for people who can't pay for basic health care costs. It's expensive if we have child hunger because those kids don't grow up well. And it seems like a worthwhile investment. We can afford to do this, not only afford to, I really think ultimately we would save money, save lives, save families. Well, every day it gets darker, fewer hours of sunlight, but the holidays are coming, the lights are going to be going on, people are going to be celebrating, getting cozy with family and friends, I hope, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for watching my video. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel And follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, where my handle is @Jan Schakowsky.